Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Stuff I Heard podcast. This is your host, Josh Peak. Hi, everybody. Today is Saturday, and I'm doing something a little special today. I am grilling, smoking, however you want to say it, a pork butt on my Gorilla Grills pellet grill. This is sort of a fun thing that I've gotten into doing, largely in part to my buddy Greg, also my stepdad, Dan, who is turned into kind of a master griller. Um, my stepdad had bought a green egg years ago, and it sort of gone down the rabbit hole of perfecting how to grill on this green egg so that everything was really phenomenal. And I watched him like regulate his temperature and his timing and everything so that he could cook at maximum levels, and it just looked super complicated and super time consuming. And I thought, I like this and all, but I don't know that I have the time for prep. And I mean, because you got to heat the coals, you got brick charcoal, and you got to heat it up to a certain temperature, and you got to let it, simmer down so that the briquettes are the right color before you put the stuff on. And then if you're cooking something for a long time, there's a question of if you have enough heat. And it's this whole delicate balance that a lot of people figured out. I mean, the green egg thing is super popular, but also the green eggs are expensive. I want to say like a cheap one is over $1,000, and I just don't have that kind of money, nor do I have that kind of patience or time. Um, I do have the patience and time for a pellet grill. My buddy Greg introduced me to a pellet grill years ago. We've enjoyed quite a few meals off of his. And during that time, I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about buying my own. Now, since then, I've been enjoying trying new things, new way of cooking. I do like the flavor of the stuff that I'm cooking, and I like that I get to kind of set up my day as, this is going to be an all day event kind of deal. Sometimes that means that if you have other things planned, you might need to cook overnight, which some people are not really comfortable with. My wife included. She's not a big fan of cooking overnight. She's always worried that the grill's going to burn the house down. Don't know that that's going to ever happen, or even how that would be possible with that grill. But I get it. I mean, sort of. Um, I would think that your big concern overnight would be bears. I mean, if bears can smell stuff cooking and they're out at night, maybe they're looking around, smelling, what's that cooking? Bear be coming up on your porch. And I'm not talking about Yogi Bear. I'm talking about a real bear. Now, here in Florence, South Carolina, it's easy to assume that you're in a city. There's not going to be any bears. We live in the South. There's no bear. There are bears. We've actually had our local paper and news crew film bears in our town. Matter of fact, there's been a couple that have been downtown at Five Points, which is kind of a busy intersection, the busiest intersection in Florence. Usually they're at like 3 and 4 in the morning that they see these bears. I've never seen one in our town, but I've seen the videos and I've seen the photos. Now, I do know they're down here. I've got guys that I work with that have those ring doorbell things, and they've shown me photos of a black bear on their back porch or around their back porch. And we're talking about a, you know, I don't know, 700-pound bear. I mean, I've had guys show me their pictures and go, yeah, I can never let my wife see this because if she sees it, she's going to want to move. And I don't think we can afford that. So maybe the doorbell ring needs to break so that she doesn't see it. Now, if we saw one here, I'm sure my wife would lose her mind. Um, but again, we can't afford to move. Where are we going to move? You can't move away from Mother Nature. Mother Nature's everywhere. I mean, if you go far enough south, then you got to worry about giant anaconda pythons in Florida Everglades. I mean, or gators. I mean, those are dinosaurs. Wildlife is always going to be outside your door. Just yet another reason why you need to have firearms. I know there's always been this firearm debate, for a while of school shootings and stuff like that, which is tragic. But there is a need for firearms, And one of those needs is Mother Nature taps on your door and says, you know, I mean, I'm just saying. Uh, so anyway, let's talk about stuff I heard. I got to go on a road trip to Augusta to do some work. And while I'm on the road, I got a bit of a drive. I was able to listen to Joe Rogan and Duncan Trussell's 5.5 hour podcast together. It's supposed to be the first one that's on Spotify. And I noticed that it downloaded on my regular iTunes. I'm not sure when the exclusive thing is supposed to kick into place. I thought it was supposed to be September 1st, but since then, he's done a podcast with Miley Cyrus and one with Mike Tyson, and they're downloading on my iTunes like they used to. I did notice that his catalog has moved over to Spotify. I opened up Spotify and was able to sort of peruse around enough to know that a lot of podcasts are there. I'm not going to say all the podcasts are there. I am on some Facebook fan pages, and apparently they've not put up all of the podcasts. And there's a theory that the ones that they deem are not of their content, they're not putting in there. Now, I haven't heard Joe talk about this. Of course, I haven't heard his next two podcasts. I don't even know if he's aware of it. But apparently, they've not put up several that he's done with Joey Diaz. I'm not sure why. I'm sure that if Joe finds out about it, he's going to talk about it. Of course, the fan page is all pissed off. They're like, "See, you signed $100 million deal, and then you're a sellout. You know you're willing to trade in your best friends and blah 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 blah." And I'm sure it's not that. I'm sure it's an issue of probably them wanting to control what content is on there. Um, and maybe they feel like Joey is a little sensitive to have on there. But again, that was supposed to be Rogan's reason for moving over, was because they were not going to censor him. And his first podcast with Duncan Trussell, I mean, they go crazy. They they get really high. They drink a lot. They have a good time. They talk about all kinds of things. They talk about aliens. They talk about ghosts. They talk about you name it. Psilocybin mushrooms, creation, life, death, comedy, friendship. They go into really deep conversations about why they're friends and how they met and how they tend to nurture each other in a way that is unusual. Um, we all have that certain person that we come into contact with that brings out certain elements in us. And sometimes it is creativity, sometimes it is um, a desire to be better, to do better. Sometimes it is motivation. I mean, different people come into your lives and they affect you in different ways. And it could be your interactions with them, it could be a competition in a way, it could be a form of play. Um, I said that to say this. I had a conversation with my buddy Greg this morning. We were trying to plan our upcoming trip. And before I knew it, we were making jokes about going to the supermarket to buy meat briskets to cook. And I told him how I go in there and I slap the meat to hear the sound. And I just went on this funny tangent about slapping the meat in the store and making eye contact with people in the store. Like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm slapping the meat. I want to find out which one sounds right. and then I got really funny and creative in that. And I don't just talking to Greg spurred it in me. I mean, certain people, like I said, you have a conversation and all of a sudden your brain goes off to the races. And so, for Joe, Duncan's one of those guys that is inspirational to him. He just feels like he can play off any idea, and Duncan will play back. But here, I'm gonna throw a ball, you throw it back to me, kind of deal. Um, and they don't have to agree. There's many times in this conversation they don't agree, and Duncan is equally as creative and comes up with different ways of looking at things, and you sort of need that in life. I mean, you can get stuck in your own echo chamber, and I mean, let's face it, we talk to ourselves all the time. We tell ourselves all the time, you can do it, you can't do it, you look fat in that, you look too skinny in that, that doesn't, you know, we're judging ourselves all the time. We're trying to have self um, preservation. We're always thinking about things that are dangerous that may hurt us, and we're trying to avoid it. Or we have an adventurous side that's like, oh, this is going to be dangerous, but I kind of want to do it. It'll be a lot of fun. Let's do it. I mean, there are thrill seekers out there that do that. And whether we realize it or not, we do talk to ourselves pretty regularly. Some people do it subconsciously, some people do it consciously. I've heard it said that whenever you feel like you have a gut reaction, it's not actually your gut, it's actually your subconscious that's thought about things millions and millions of times, playing out different scenarios so that when a obstacle or a danger presents itself, you're able to overcome that thing and survive. It's a survival instinct. So a lot of times when you go, well, it's just a gut reaction, it's actually something you've subconsciously thought about millions and millions of times. Now, there's one thing that came from this conversation with Joe and Duncan that was really interesting that got me thinking. I forget who says it, but one of them says they were talking to someone a long time ago and they asked him, where are ideas born? Think about it. An idea. Where does it come from? Now, you could say that ideas exist because of our subconscious, because of our survival instinct, because of all this other stuff. But what if it's more than that? Joe said something that was interesting. He said he believed a long time ago that ideas could possibly be aliens, could be an alien life form that just happens to inhibit your brain and give you ideas because you're receptive. I mean, that sounds interesting. There is a theory that the flora in your stomach, made up of trillions of microbiomes, are actually the thing that drives your spaceship body. They're actually the thing that makes you make decisions, whether you want to eat, exercise, sleep, whatever. They're controlling you like Ratatouille, moving your hair around and controlling the guy cooking. But it's in you and it's making you make decisions based upon what you feel like you need to do to survive. I mean, that's an interesting idea too. I know people have written books on that. I've actually read headlines for books that have something to do with your microbiomes and how they guide us. Um, but where are ideas born? And why are some people more adaptive to ideas? Is it something that births things? Like you have an idea, and if you have more than one idea, they give birth to another idea? Is it one of those things where conversations create ideas, or what is it? Like, if you don't come into contact with anybody, do you have ideas where you're like, aha, I got it. I got the solution. I want to create this. I want to do this. Where does it come from? Is it something inside of you that you've always had? Or is it something that is created externally? It's kind of interesting to think about. I mean, I'll give you an example. Okay. We went to the beach and we were having a good time with some friends. And one of them has a wagon that extends out, it accordions up and extends out. And when it does, it's got these great big, probably, I don't know, 5-inch, 6-inch wide tires. That way it can go across the beach sand pretty easily. And it seems to do a decent job. Um, the problem is when you put too much weight in it, it is hard to tow. And because it has 4 wheels instead of 2 wheels, there is that notion of I can just keep packing this sucker down with heavy stuff and it should be fine once we get on the level land. Well, yeah, that's fine when you're on the level land. But oftentimes you have sand dunes to get over. And a lot of beaches have stairs. You have to go upstairs on one side and downstairs on the other side. And then when you get into the soft sand, you have to get across the soft sand. Now, let's just say you go to the beach with a cooler with some snacks, and maybe you've got, your sunscreen, your beach towels, and let's just say your wife wants to take some beach chairs and maybe a beach umbrella. And before you know it, you've got that sucker loaded down with, I don't know, let's just ballpark it and say 50 pounds worth of stuff. Okay. If you don't have somebody to help you carry that wagon up and down the stairs and across the beach sand, then you're not getting it to the beach. Let's take it a step further. One of our friends had a hand cart looking thing with two wheels on the back, these great big inflatable smooshy kind of wheels that work great. I looked them up online. I think the brand is called Wheelies, Wheeleez. And there may be variations on that or whatever, but most people are using these wheelies for beach and they're expensive. They're not cheap. The wheels alone with an axle is running about $200. And I'm like, what the heck is this stuff made of? Are you kidding me? Now, I looked around at people at the beach and I noticed some people had some with some giant, almost bicycle looking wheels that were spoked, and they seemed to do okay. Um, I mean, let's face it, if you're in soft sand, you don't need a whole lot of distance for the sand to absorb. Even when you walk on it, you only sink what, maybe 4 inches in the sand as you're moving across the sand. I mean, your feet do sink. The sand shifts. And if you're carrying a cart that don't have wide enough wheels, the cart digs into the ground and it makes it harder to move. Well, okay. But what if you had taller wheels? Would that matter? So it got me thinking, what if I build my own cart instead of buying a cart that's pre-built? Because I looked it up online. You can buy one of those wagon things anywhere from like $115 to $300, depending upon what quality you want and what accessories you want on it. Um, One of those hand cart looking things with the two great big wheels on the back. I saw one of those online for about $300 on Amazon. $300 is pretty pricey. What if I just built a cart? Now I got down this rabbit hole today of looking at stuff on YouTube with people building carts with PVC pipe, and I thought, well, there's something that's lightweight and durable and strong. You can build it pretty simply if you can, formulate it in your brain of how you want it to go together. It may require some cutting of some PVC um, or some planning enough so that you get the right sizes while you're at the store. It's a lot cheaper if you just buy the pipe at length and then cut it as you need it. But you got to have the right elbows and you got to have the right this and that and the other to make it go together. And it takes some know-how to kind of put it together. There's a lot of ways you could do it where it would be something that would fall apart when you're there. So there's a lot of room for error there. But it would be cool to build. I mean, the other side of it is, what if you do that and you take it to the beach and it all falls apart? Well, then what's the point, right? I've thought about maybe I have a giant cooler. I've thought about maybe taking that giant cooler and then just strapping chairs on top of it because it has two wheels on the backside. The problem is that giant cooler is heavy when it's empty. I mean, come on. I'm trying to do this smart as I get older, not harder. I mean, that cooler is 110 pound, 110 quart. If you put anything in it, all of a sudden you're like, "Urgh." I mean, I don't want to pull a muscle when I'm trying to go to the beach and relax. So I don't know. I've thought about maybe I have three hand carts at work. I've thought about maybe bringing a hand cart home and changing out the wheels, put those giant wheels on it, and get maybe a blade extension, and then I could put my stuff on it and lean it back, and it would be fine. Um, but I don't even know if I want to do that. I mean, I kind of want to need my hand cart for work, even though I got three of them. I don't need three per se. So I don't know. I mean, it's something to think about, but it's an idea. So where did that idea come from? Did it birth within me? Where did it come from? Kind of makes you wonder. So anyway, let me switch gears. I also listened to my buddy Greg's podcast, 5 and 40. A lot of good information, entertaining. Um, he's getting better and better at it, and he's doing more often. He's doing the podcast more often. There was a lot of good stuff in there that I liked, and you guys just need to listen to it. I want to give away some stuff that I heard because it's pretty fascinating, um, especially the stuff about buying a car, about the availability of cars and the price of cars and stuff like that. Cool stuff. I don't want to give it away. I want you guys to listen to it, and you know, yeah. So, um, I also listened to Dan Cummins' podcast, Timesuck. This guy does a lot of research. He has a team of people helping him research, and he does some pretty fantastic subjects. I listened to a podcast about Patty Hearst. I had heard of Patty Hearst as a kid. I sort of heard about William Randolph Hearst and the Hearst Empire through listening to Joe Rogan. Apparently, Hearst is the reason that marijuana is illegal because of paper being easier to make than from wood than cotton is. Or no, what is it? Paper is easier to make from wood than it is from hemp, and he wanted to criminalize hemp because it was a byproduct of marijuana. And if he criminalized it, then he could profit on the fact that he owned all this paper mill business. It's a whole scandal thing. This was not about that. This podcast was not about that. He did touch on this a little bit, but it was more about how the Hearst family came from nothing and ended up with a fortune. One of the descendants of Patty Hearst apparently he came to America, lived in South Carolina. I didn't know he lived in South Carolina. Was a farmer, got into mining at a certain point. Wasn't great at it in the beginning, but got better. Apparently moved out to Missouri, did some more mining, moved out to California, owned a general store for a while, did some more mining. Apparently, at one point, he bought into a silver mine, a portion of a silver mine that came up big, and he reinvested that money to buy more portions of more mines. And this was really the turning point of the Hearst Empire. This is when they became wealthy, is because he, instead of taking the cash out and just living large on the cash out, he reinvested it to make more wealth. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't invest in themselves. They don't take that chance. They go, cool, I got it. I'm getting out of here. He took that chance. Now, if you're talking about somebody who goes to Vegas and they win and they go, I'm doubling down on the next one. Okay, well, those buildings aren't built on winners. Those buildings are built on losers. And if you're doing that, you're going to lose. This guy took a chance on a mining industry and it profited. It was time and place, just the right time at the right place, and it worked for him. It worked for him in a big way. He then got into buying up media stuff, newspapers, magazines. Eventually, I think his what was it? His son got into the newspaper business or something like that, and then bought media stuff. You got to listen to the podcast. He'll tell you all this stuff. I'm just telling you what I heard, and I'm kind of blending in two different generations as I'm telling it. I know I'm screwing it up. There's other people out there that know what the story is. And they're like, you're all wrong, man. You're an idiot. Yes, I am. I am an idiot. But maybe I'm inspiring you to listen to it. So go check it out. It's about Patty Hearst. Talks about her being kidnapped. Talks about her sort of being brainwashed by these people to do some crime, to basically be bank robbers, and stand up to her parents who were trying to rescue her. They thought they were rescuing her. And she had Stockholm syndrome. She was sort of tortured and twisted to fall in line and follow orders from these people and do some crazy stuff. Very interesting podcast. Very interesting. And then the next podcast I listened to was another Timesuck. It was the next episode. It's about a guy named Richard Chase from Sacramento. He is the Sacramento vampire killer, is what he was called. Probably the most horrific serial killer that I've ever heard of. The things he did were terrifying. I mean, gruesome, terrifying, awful. And, I've heard Dan Cummins do lots of other time sucks. I mean, it's turned into one of my favorite podcasts. Big shout out to my brother Alex and a coworker, Chad Powell. Thank you for turning me on to it. It's a really fantastic podcast. But he's done lots of time sucks on different serial killers over the years. And he sort of mentioned this one when he was talking about the FBI special unit, behavioral unit. The show Mindhunter was built around a certain two detectives. One particular came up with the tagline serial killer because it was a pattern. And this was one of the cases they had. This guy, Richard Chase, was a monster. And I'll give it up to Dan. He's a comedian and he does make it funny. He does find a way to input comedy into this so that it's at least digestible. If it wasn't for him telling jokes along the way, I couldn't listen to it. You know, there's a lot to be said for comedy. It does soften the blow. It does make life easier. Years ago, I took a cruise and there was a comedian on board named David Nastor. And David Nastor had a book called You Just Gotta Laugh. And he talked about how in life, there's a lot of tragic moments, but out of tragedy, you can find comedy to help soften the blow. And he was right. It's something that I've learned over the years that even when things are tragic, sometimes it helps to find the humor in it just to laugh so that it doesn't weigh you down to the point of severe depression. You know, it's a coping mechanism, yes. But it's one that is needed. We all need to laugh. I don't know if we realize it or not, but we need to laugh. We need to find a way to soften the blow of things that happen in our life in order to continue forward. And I'm thankful that I have funny people around me. I have had funny parents. I've had funny friends. I've had a funny wife. We come up with ways to make each other laugh all the time. You know, you need that. You need that. So thank you, Dan Cummins and the Timesuck team. You guys are killing it. And I recommend everybody go check it out. So anyway, let's talk about The Boys. The Boys is on Amazon Prime. Well, 3 episodes are. I didn't realize it, but they're only going to release 3 episodes to start off. And it says on the thing, new episodes Fridays. And I'm like, all right, how's this going to work? You guys going to do like 1 episode a week after the 3? I mean, okay, fine. At least that'll stop me from feeling compelled to binge watch all of them in a hurry. The first 3 episodes were amazing. If you guys haven't seen season 1, it's pretty amazing. I've talked about it on this podcast before. It's basically if you had superpowers, would you be super or would you be a human with powers? Because these people are not right. There's a lot of things wrong with them. And yet they have special abilities, some of them more than others. And most of them are pretty messed up. But it's a great, fun story to watch, even with the tragedy of the things that happen. Again, there's comedy in it. There's things that make you laugh in it. It's not like super, super serious. It's worth a watch. There is a special appearance of Patton Oswalt as the voice of something in season 2 that is hilarious. I'm not going to give it away, but when you hear his voice, you're going to be like, "Is that Ratatouille's voice?" I love Patton Oswalt. I think it's great, and his voice in this is perfect for what they use it for. Is so perfect. But yeah, so The Boys, check it out on Amazon Prime. Also, I've been looking on social media and people have been talking about this show called Away. It just popped up on Netflix. I hadn't heard about it coming out. Hilary Swank is the main character. Josh Charles plays her husband. I mean, people sleep on the fact that Hilary Swank is a Oscar winner, a multiple Oscar winner. There's a reason she wins Oscars. She is incredible on the screen. I mean, it doesn't matter what role I've ever seen her play. She doesn't half do it. I mean, she's all in. She is like Daniel Day-Lewis of playing characters for females. I mean, she embodies the person she's supposed to play, and you buy it. I mean, within a short period of time, you are on board with who she is as a character. And this is no different. The movie or the show, it's not a movie. The show's 10 episodes. I've watched about 4 this morning because I got up at 5:30 and put that pork butt on. Um, I've the show is about astronauts going to Mars. And this is sort of timely in the fact that Elon Musk has been adamantly talking about how important it is for humans to get to Mars in his lifetime. He's like, if I don't make this happen, like none of this has been for anything. He sees our planet as something that is going to at one point be no longer viable as a place to live. And he may be right. He may very well be right. But I think as we evolve and as we change and as we challenge ourselves with ideas, again, where do these ideas come from? No idea. Are they aliens? Are we aliens? Big question. I know right now people who are Bible thumpers are like, you shut your dirty mouth, boy. Okay. But what if? So what if this planet gets to where people can't live on it and we're able to go to other planets? What if Mars is the next place? What if the moon is the next place? What if all of this changes? I read recently, I follow these weird things on Twitter. One of them is called Wow Facts, and one of them is like Unbelievable Facts or something like that. Apparently, the moon moves 4 inches further away from the Earth every year. I mean, that's got to do something to this planet, right? One of the other facts is that if the moon wasn't there, our day would only last 6 hours. Like our solar cycle of a day would only last 6 hours. So, what kind of control does the moon have over us? And what does it mean to our overall climate as it moves further and further away? What does it do to our time of the day? What does it do to our weather? What does it do to our polar ice caps? I mean, one of the things Joe and Duncan talked about is we're on this blue marble out in outer space, speeding along at thousands of miles an hour, and we're just close enough to the sun to melt the polar ice cap so that we can drink the water, but not close enough that it boils it. What? When you hear it out loud, you're like, that sounds absurd. And yeah, it is. And we're on it. Flinging around through outer space. There you go. That's why you need comedy. That's why you need ideas. You got to figure out a different way. You got to figure out, what are we doing? What's our purpose? What are we doing, man? And of course, I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff. And my mom knows that. Matter of fact, my mom dropped me off 2 books the other day, both from Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I'm going to read those. So yeah, I'm into it. I'm curious. I have ideas. Now, does that mean I'm going to go to Mars? Probably not. No. But it's neat to talk about because maybe someone out there has a kid that will. Maybe somebody out there has a kid that'll be president. Maybe somebody out there has a kid that'll have the next Joe Rogan podcast. Maybe somebody has a kid out there that'll be on my podcast at some point. Who knows? But it's an idea. So anyway, this show has to deal with going to Mars and the challenges that are there. And Hilary Swank is the lead astronaut, the chief, the captain, the head cheese of a team. And it's interesting. It's very interesting. It's a good story. I've only watched 4 episodes, and so far it's fantastic. I mean, I know I talk a lot about Netflix shows and Amazon shows and things that I like, and this is fantastic. I'm digging it. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen, partially because some people are talking in different languages, and I got to be able to read their subtitles so I can understand what they're saying. But also because I don't want to miss anything, because small details matter. Yeah, small details matter. Well said. Well said, me. I should give myself a high five. So anyway, I got up at 5:30 this morning and I put a pork butt on the pellet grill and it is cooking and I'm monitoring it and it's looking fantastic and I'm getting updates on my phone telling me, "Hey man, your cook is going well. Ooh la la. I'm so excited. I can't wait. It's going to be so delicious." Um Last night my grandson was here and my wife is going to make him cookies and she bought these those little pre-made ones that are in the refrigerated section and you take them out and they're like in squares. Well, he can't pronounce his s's really well, so he pronounces them with an f, and he kept saying that they were frickles. He said they're squares right now and they're going to be frickles. I was like, "Oh, that's adorable, little kid." He's so adorable. Matter of fact, I think my wife shared it with me. I wonder if I could play it on here. Would you guys care?
Five. So we got 5 minutes until what? Till zero. Until
Till
zero.
zero.
And then what happens at zero? The cookies turn to circle because zero is a circle. Okay.
Because 0 is a circle. I love the fact that he's got oven mitts on both hands and he's animated and talking because 0 is the circle. He's so adorable. Golly. I'm loving it. It's awesome. Life's good. Yeah. So we're working out the details on our trip. I know you guys don't care, but I'm excited about it. It's going to be a big deal. Labor Day is this weekend. Well, not this weekend. It's actually Monday. A lot of you guys have Monday off. And if you do, enjoy, have a good time, but be safe. Try not to overdo it with the alcohol. And if you do drink, don't drive. I am working Monday. So if you see me out and about, wave or, hey Josh or whatever. It's fine. Some of us have to keep everybody fed and, the groceries don't show up magically. So when you're out and about and you're eating dinner and you see the little food truck, pay attention to it because they're bringing you food that the people are cooking in the back. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. And those guys appreciate a little thank you once in a while. So thank you to everybody that I work with for your efforts. I know you guys work hard. I had an incident happen with a coworker that I'm going to try to do a podcast with him to talk about it. And I'm not going to get into it right now, but basically, it's a black man that I work with who is a really impressive professional guy who moved up the ladder from an entry level job to being a manager over a large district of other managers. He is impressive. He's impressed me every step of his career with his choices and the way he's handled adversity. And him and his wife are both personal trainers on the side, and they've opened up a gym, and he's doing that with the other thing. And he was going on vacation and apparently got pulled over and harassed by the police because he's driving a nice Escalade out in the South as a young black man. And I wouldn't have been pulled over because I guess I look like the guy that's supposed to drive an Escalade, and he doesn't. If you saw us standing next to each other, you'd go, no, he definitely would be driving it, not you, Josh. I mean, I'm being honest. This guy is sharp. And I'm not going to tell his story. I'm going to let him tell his story. But I reached out to him and I said, I'm sorry this happened to you. And I would love to have a conversation with you so that you can share your story with the audience. And the only way we change things is through education. The only way we change any of this is by sharing our experiences. And if this is what this is all for, if this is what this podcast is for, then so be it. I'm going to do that. So again, I know the percentages are there. I know most police officers are good police officers. There's still a lot of bad ones. And we got to change it. I mean, it's not a job I would want to do. And if anybody's out there doing the job, my hat goes off to you. It's not an easy job. I do have compassion. But there's a lot of really crappy ones. Just like there's crappy people. I mean, I had a customer. One of the reasons I had to go down and work with this guy in Augusta, I had a customer complaining about a guy, and he was in the wrong a little bit. But also they treated him differently because he was black. It didn't take long to figure that out. They saw him come in the door and they were one way, saw me come in the door and they acted completely different to me. And then he came back in and they treated him the same they treated him before. They didn't change. Some people have a bias within them to just treat people awfully because they look different. So here's a challenge. Here's a challenge to you guys. Go out of your comfort zone and make a new friend with someone who doesn't look like you. Get to know somebody. Like, don't just superficially, hey, how are you? Get to know somebody. Ask them about their childhood. Ask them about how they grew up. Ask them about the challenges they've had to overcome. Ask them about if they grew up on a farm or if they grew up in the city. What was it like growing up there? Did you have any sisters and brothers? You know, ask them about their mama. Have conversations with people. We have to bridge a gap. We have to change. And this is how we change. So, have a good Labor Day, everybody. I love you. If you don't hear anywhere else, I love you. And I appreciate that you listen to this podcast. I appreciate that you're part of this. I'm wanting to do better. I'm wanting to be better. I don't know where that idea come from, since we talked about ideas a lot. I don't know where that idea come from, but I'm thankful for it. And hopefully I can give you an idea. Hopefully I can spur you on to be better, to strive for better, to want more. Not for things, but more for personal growth, if that makes any sense. So let's make each other great. If you want to be on the podcast and talk about it, let me know. Reach out to me. Check out the website, www.stuffiheard.com. I got merch there. I got a contact page. I got photos. I got you name it. If there's ways I can change it, let me know. If you're an engineer and you're like, hey, Josh, I think you could do this differently, let me know. It's the only way we get better, right? We got to help each other. Let's build our community. Let's promote one another. Let's lift each other up. Cool. That's all I got. Y'all have a great day and a good weekend. And as always, cue the cow.
I want you guys to give me more likes. Give me more likes.